Hello everyone, it is Tiffany of Clarity, Confidence, Courage, Women's Empowerment. I am a women's life coach that helps women who have gone through a divorce really rebuild, redefine, and recreate lives that they absolutely love. In today's video, I am going to be interviewing Naomi Morad. She is a trauma therapist. She specifically focuses on trauma, depression, PTSD, the whole gamut, and really helps her clients take step-by-step action to reach their full potential. You are going to love this interview. Now, this is going to be part one of the interview, because this is an interview series. And then later on in the week, I will be releasing part two. Ladies, listen up, because what she is talking about when it comes to trauma may be the reason why you are also having issues moving forward with your life. So stay tuned, sit back, and really enjoy this video with Naomi Morad. Thank you for watching, and as always, be sure to share, like, and subscribe. Now let's jump into this content. Hello, everyone. This is Tiffany of Clarity, Confidence, Courage, Women's Empowerment. I am so excited about the interview I am doing today. As you all know, I'm a women's life coach that helps heart-centered, empathic, compassionate divorced women rebuild, redesign, and recreate lives that they absolutely love. And today I am excited to be able to be doing an interview with Naomi Morad. She is a therapist that specializes in trauma, from PTSD to depression, childhood trauma, abuse, the whole gamut. And she is going to tell us today more about herself, how she got involved in this, and specifically how she helps everybody, but specifically how we can use what we are learning today to help you as a divorced woman. Naomi, welcome. Thank you for coming on here. I'm so excited to be doing this with you.
Thank you, Tiffany. I'm so excited to be here.
Absolutely. Well, Naomi, tell us more about who you are, what you do, and how you got into trauma therapy.
So I was born and raised in Germany. I lived in many different countries around the world. I lived in Germany until I was about 20, and then I moved to Italy, New York, Israel, Atlanta today, and I studied in the different places. And I've been married for over 30 years, close to 31. I have 4 children and have been specializing in trauma-informed body psychotherapy for over 22 years.
And what I love about what you and I have talked about before, Naomi, is that you do a specific type of therapy. Can you tell us more about your specific specialty and how you bring it into your therapeutic work with your clients?
Trauma-informed body psychotherapy sounds like a mouthful, right? It sounds complicated. But the truth is, I look at the person as a whole. I understood from very early on that in order to truly heal, I have to learn how to help people heal on all aspects of their being. It means everything that happens to us happens on many different levels. Even you and me talking right now, there's something happening in our bodies, in our breath, some of our emotions. We feel them if we actually connect to them. And I incorporate that whole awareness when I work with people. And the same way we talk right now, everything that happened to us, every trauma, every memory is also stored inside our bodies and our minds and our brains. And I help people work through trauma by accessing all parts of ourselves. And that means that the way I look at it, when people come to me for depression, anxiety, relationship issues, addictions, chronic pain, to me, that's always a result of, okay? It never is just out of nowhere that we have these issues, okay? They are rooted in something that is much older, most likely rooted in early childhood trauma, and trauma that's been recurring over and over again throughout their lives until today. It plays out in relationship issues and attracting the same difficulties into our lives, the same patterns playing out without us really being aware of them.
Wow. Wow. And, I can definitely, everything that you were saying, I connected to because as I've told you before, once I got divorced and I started my own therapy, and I've been very open with my audience about how important it is to go to therapy once you go through that, because it is a trauma. But it was interesting to me in therapy, I thought the whole focus was going to be on my ex and talking about everything that happened in the relationship. But so much of it was childhood patterns. And my therapist was like, okay, we need to talk about where this pattern began, where it was okay for you to not have boundaries and not stand up for yourself and not speak up for yourself. So, what are some tips, Naomi, that or advice that you can give to the viewers that know they kind of know something is connected to childhood, but they're not quite sure. They feel like it might be a pattern. What's the next step for that woman who is like, this is more than just about my divorce?
First of all, it's to start paying attention, to bring our awareness to what's going on in our lives. Very often, like you said, you come to therapy and you think it's about your husband and being abusive and doing this and that. And we're very trained in seeing the fault in others for our own pain. So there are many steps to your question. It's not just a one sentence answer.
Sure.
The first thing is that to understand that nobody can cause us pain unless that pain already is inside of me. Mm-hmm. It means unless there's like a weak spot, a belief, a pattern that I already carry with me. It's like I can say to you, Tiffany, I don't like your shirt. And you will take it very personal and get insulted. And you'll tell your friends, Naomi said that she doesn't like my shirt. It was so rude of her. Like, I can't believe she said that to me. And Monica, who might be standing right next to you, if I say the same thing to her, she would be like, so what if she said that? I like my shirt. Who cares? Right. And the reason it might have hurt you is because it connects to something that happened to you. It connects to your pain. Our pain is like a chain of events, okay? It's like a chain of trauma events, of patterns that we keep recreating into our lives. Mm. So the first thing I would say to these women is really start paying attention if there's something that keeps recurring in your life. If there's certain situations, certain men that you keep attracting into your life. This is the same kind of person. He may have a different name and may look differently, but along the relationship, you come across the same difficulties. It makes you feel the same way. You feel victimized. You feel like you can't speak up. You feel like that you're being treated unfairly. You feel like you're being treated disrespectful. Okay, like he's walking all over you. There are endless ways of, how it can express itself. And most likely, this will not just play out in our relationships with our partners. We'll encounter these things of feeling like victim in anything. It can be you go and buy a car and you feel like the car salesman was like, not taking you seriously and you paid more than you should have paid, okay? Or it may be in relationships with your parents, with your friends, that you keep feeling like people are using you.
And I think that's so important to bring up because there comes a point, and I for me, it was like the light bulb moment where I realized, like, first of all, this is, like you said, this is not just an issue in the relationship. This is an issue across my entire life in different aspects of my life. And the one thing that I can say in coaching some of the women that I've coached is that so many times they'll come to me for one thing, they're like, I have to get my life in order. I have to do this, I have to do that. And I'm like, oh, well, I wonder why you haven't. Let's get through that. What's going on here? And they find that pattern in their career or whatever goals they're trying to achieve. The same block that they're having is the same block across different concepts. So I love that you brought up that fact that it's not just that you have, somebody doesn't like your shirt or you have an issue it's in every aspect of your life. You're taking this extremely personally. Yes, that's so true. I wonder, Naomi, when you talk to clients that come to you, whether it be about divorce or something else, and they get to a point where they get to that kind of that light bulb moment, they're like, oh my gosh, this is not just about XYZ. This is an issue. Like, what do you think from that perspective? Because I think it takes a lot to go to therapy and to be vulnerable is like the first next step for them when they have that light bulb moment.
What I mainly try to, there's like, my therapy is like, there are different things that I work on, okay? One of the things is really help my clients process the trauma that is connected to the pain they're suffering from today, whether it's relationship issues or depression or anxiety or chronic pain, and help them understand the connections, how everything is interrelated. And the more we heal those parts, and the more we take back basically the parts that have gotten lost along the way, the more we heal. That means, yes, there is that aha moment every time. Like, oh my God, this is exactly the same way I felt when I was 5, and the same way I felt when I was 3, and the same way I felt when I was 12. Okay. It's the same pattern running through my life, same beliefs. Okay. So when we work through these beliefs and these patterns, and it's like literally like breaking them down, and what remains is just the memory and not the pain anymore. Because what we carry into our lives today is really the pain that we feel. And once trauma occurs, we usually have that tendency to attract the same pattern again and again in our lives. That means we've, like, I tell you, I don't like your blouse. That will be the 100th time that you will have felt that insult, that pain, that, like, it's like, pressing on the same wound again and again and again. And the more we heal those parts and these wounds, the less need you have to react in your everyday life. And suddenly one day you'll notice that, actually very quickly, you'll notice that you're less reactive to what happens around you. You're less triggered by the people around you. And eventually, the more you clear up that pain and those thought patterns that are around that, and those habits and beliefs, people start to notice that they attract different people into their lives. Suddenly their relationships begin to change naturally, without having to think, oh, I have to pay attention that this doesn't happen to me. It's like organically something begins to shift. And instead of attracting X, you start to attract different kinds of people and different kinds of situations. And then suddenly people say, after a while, they're like, oh, wow, I have such a good time with these people, or it's so easy for me to have that relationship, or I had this wonderful person come into my life. And only then they understand the work that they have done.
Got it.
Okay.
Yes.
When I said there are different aspects I work with, I also teach a lot of awareness tools. That means I often give my clients homework, whatever the issue was that we were working on. Like this morning, I was working with a client, and the issue that came up was her difficulty of giving. She's very used to receiving, but she doesn't really know how to give. And we worked on that issue, and she connected back to very, very early ages, where she felt like, she had to keep everything to herself because she received so little. She received so little love and attention from her parents that she felt like she had to hold on to everything. And that plays out in her life until today, that she is afraid to give because she's afraid then she won't have enough. As we worked through that pattern, and she started to reflect and see how it plays out in her life today and how it's hurting her, the homework I gave her was to start paying attention until we meet next time, to see when she's out with friends or she's around people, what it feels like when she's available to give. I said, you don't even have to act on it. Just come with that consciousness of, okay, what can I give? And just be curious about how that plays out in your life. Just be curious about if something changes in the relationships with people.
I love that, Naomi. And as you were talking, it kind of brought me to that kind of understanding that part of this process is awareness. And can you talk a little bit more about kind of like, I always say this concept of sensitivity. I always do like this sensitivity, me learning how to discern because I had to be more sensitive and aware. But can you go a little bit further on a concept of self-awareness, I should say?
I think that's a really important concept. Self-awareness is really starting to pay attention how I behave, starting to pay attention how people react to me. And I always teach my client to start becoming more of an observer than a reactor. Because once I've reacted, I'll use that simple example of the shirt, okay? Once you react to that, me telling you, I don't like your shirt, then it becomes personal. And then everything we see is through that lens of trauma, through that lens of hurt, of pain, and we go into story. And we tell ourselves the story, oh, she's really mean, and she meant it that way, and she meant it that way. And the person who said that to you might have not given it much thought. It might have meant nothing to that person. It was just a comment, but for you, it was opened up a whole world. And when we react emotionally, then we can't see what's happening in front of us. Then our awareness is completely blocked. But when we can take a step back and say, she mentioned that about my shirt. Okay, maybe it's not about me. Okay, maybe it has nothing to do with me. Maybe that's her issue or whatever. Then I can just step back and I can observe and I can say, okay, I see this is happening, and he's saying this and she's saying that. And I take a step back and it doesn't become, I don't interact with it. I can learn about the situation. I can learn about how it makes me feel. Oh, this really triggers me. Okay, interesting. Okay, this triggered me. Do you understand? It's a different reaction. It's like, oh, I can see, oh, this one hurt. This one felt uncomfortable. Okay, interesting. That's uncomfortable. Okay. And when I observe my own behavior and my own emotions, then I don't identify with them. And then I learn about what triggers me. I learn about other people's behaviors, and I learn about me in the situation. And when my awareness grows like that, then I can react completely differently.
Wow. I love how you just said, I don't identify. And it's so funny. I think I did actually a YouTube video about this concept. Everyone is not thinking about you. Like even people that, they're spiraling out or they're whatever, they're saying many mean things. It may not be about you. And like you just said, taking yourself out of I identify as a person where everybody hates my shirt versus I identify as Tiffany. And if this person doesn't like my shirt, maybe it's because they had trauma in their background about shirts. Like you said, being able to observe, be almost like the third party in a situation and say, this is what happened. This is what she said. I don't identify with that, so it doesn't affect me.
It's exactly like that. And even if I do identify, to say that's okay. So let me see if I got hurt by this. Let me be curious about why this is hurting me. So I take responsibility for my pain without projecting it upon the person in front of me. And I could even take it into relationships, it happens all the time. Even in people who have good relationships, we get triggered by our partners, whether we want to or not. I've been married for almost 31 years. I would be lying. get triggered every once in a while. But throughout the years, I've learned not to, what do you mean? Why did you say that? Or get insulted or shut down or whatever it is that the pattern is, and I've learned to say, okay, he really pissed me off. Let me see, why does this piss me off so much? Why does it hurt me so much? Why do I get so upset? And then I own it. And then if I still have an issue with it and I need to talk about it, I can have a conversation where I take responsibility for my feeling. I can say, you know what, love, when you said XYZ, it really hurt my feelings. I feel really hurt and it makes me sad. And do you think we can talk about this?
Wow.
Which is very different than saying, you said this and you hurt me and you. And then once I say that, the communication is lost. There's resentment, there's anger, and the other person can't hear what I have to say. But when I own my own feelings, I can say, I feel really hurt by this. I'm really frustrated. I feel like I want to say something, I don't know how. Then I give room for my partner to express his feelings. There's no blame.
I think I like to take a pause right there for everybody to take that in. Because I mean, there's so many nuggets of wisdom in that. But what I also realized is that everything that you just described takes work. And it takes that going to therapy, sitting down, like you said, because whenever it comes to self-awareness, observation, even if you're outside observing your children playing or observing, cats running around or birds, it takes a lot of mental energy to observe without like judging immediately or, oh my gosh, that dog did this or the cat did this or my kid did this. And I feel like we are in a world right now where everything is so reactionary very quickly. Let's form an opinion. I need to answer now. Let's react. Let's react. And so this idea of slowing down and observing it almost for I'm sure a lot of people feel like, oh my gosh, this is so hard. At least for me, when I first got in therapy, I was like, this is so hard.
And it is hard at first. You're right. And it's much easier to react. But then, we think that it's easier and we think that it's easier to judge, I want to say, and to react. Like you say, so many people today, they just react to, and people don't stop and take responsibility. But the thing is, when we continue reacting, we keep building that pain that we have. And every time we react, we also hurt ourselves. It means I don't just hurt the people around me, but I also hurt myself. Because actually, why do I react? I react because I'm in pain. And once again, I didn't listen to my pain. I didn't listen to that part of me that's screaming out, that younger me that's screaming out and says, hey, help, listen to me. I'm hurting. I need help. Instead, I'm saying, quiet. I don't want to hear you. There's no room for you.
And Naomi, when, based on what you just described, when you're in pain, a woman is in pain, and it's like, nope, I'm not going to hear you. I'm going to just push you down, as I like to say, and I'm going to continue to self-sacrifice for the good of all.
Sabotage.
When you're in that situation, and I've talked to clients and including myself and other people I've talked to, and you've gotten to that point, especially if you have a great therapist and you recognize, okay, I'm in pain, I'm pushing it down, but you get to that magical place where you're like, oh, I think I'm understanding better how to observe. I'm doing a lot better. But now, because I am changing and I am no longer identifying with the trauma, there are people in my life who or may not be too happy about that. And they actually might get upset that I'm not as aggressive anymore or angry anymore or depressed anymore. They might be like, "What's wrong with you?" And you're literally just existing. How how do women, how do we navigate that, especially when it comes to family? And we have changed and we're zen and we're in our peace and we're enjoying life again, and they're still in the pattern. And so they expect you to continue to behave, but you're no longer in that space. So it's almost like a disconnect. You're not angry with them, but you're also not willing to participate in the drama. Like, what then? How can we navigate that?
Well, I hope you enjoyed that part 1 with Naomi Morad. Remember to stay tuned for part 2, which I will be releasing later on in the week. And as always, make sure you share this video with other women who you know are going through things, who have gone through trauma and really trying to get their life on track. Also, like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.